Welcome to a special edition of Yard Work. This is the Yard Work Miami Dolphins new offense edition. This offseason, the Miami Dolphins drafted Jalen Waddle, number 6 overall. They signed Will Fuller, which means those are two wide receivers that should get plenty of targets, should be a focus of the offense. They have Devontae Parker. They have Preston Williams. My powers of deduction tell me that this is going to be more of a 11 personnel type team. So we're going to dig into 11 personnel and what they should do. Great detective work by myself, right? Okay. So what we have here is a play against the Rams. And the Rams give off like this quarters look, but it's really like a two deep shell. Then they fall out of it, but they're in dime. They have 4 rushers on this play. Dolphins are in 11 personnel with Mike Gesicki, and I'm using this play specifically because Mike Gesicki is on the field. And the Rams have 6 defensive backs. They're going to have this pretty well covered, okay? And what the Dolphins are doing right here is interesting. This is with Devontae Parker, and he's running a go route outside. Mike Gesicki is coming in motion, and he's running an option route, and he's going to try to seal off his man to the outside to try to work this area on the inside. Preston Williams is going to work up the field and try to hold the safety with a skinny post. And Isaiah Ford is running what looks like an option route, but it's really a hook right at the sticks, while Myles Gaskin works the flat, right? Now, this is a simple rock combination that makes a lot of sense. Now, how would it be different with the people that the Dolphins have signed? I'll explain in a little bit. Let's run the play so you can see what happens. And we're going to stop it during the play as well. And we're running it slow so you can see it. Gesicki is in motion. Brings the safety with him. Right there, Tua Tagovailoa is getting some information. Really, he should be looking up top to Devontae Parker here, but we're not going to break down what happened on this play. But we will break down the execution of it, and we are going to stop it. Good protection, by the way. And right here, you can see the two of what he has. He has the option route to the inside, right? He has Devontae Parker one-on-one. He has Preston Williams trying to occupy the safety, but Preston Williams is having a hard time getting off his jam right here. And Isaiah Ford is going to hook short. Pressure does get in on Tua Tagovailoa, but what are they trying to accomplish with this route combination? Well, I can explain to you. This is obviously a clear out route, and they're playing him for outside leverage, so they see it that way. Tua never looks that way because he knows that Parker's trying to draw a safety. He doesn't. Tua has to recognize that. So, who's the primary on this route? Well, it's right here. Gesicki. He gets one-on-one coverage. Tua doesn't feel comfortable with it. He doesn't feel comfortable with the rush that's coming right up the middle on him either. So, what is he going to look off at? Like, he doesn't have the hook at the sticks. And Preston Williams is essentially running himself into triple coverage. So Tua does the easy thing on this play and throws it to the flat. I'm going to explain how it's going to be a lot easier with the personnel they have right now. There's a completion. There's the hit. It's a gain of nothing. All right, let's run it right back to where the formation is. All right, now how would this be different out of this formation with the current personnel? Well, Mike Gesicki will not be running many option routes in the short zone. That's just, it kind of defeats the purpose of the talent that they've acquired. Almost certainly Jalen Waddle will be working the slot instead of Preston Williams right here. Preston Williams will essentially be exclusively a boundary wide receiver, but I would say Devontae Parker would almost certainly be working the loaded side and playing the short zones or the sticks, while Waddle will be stretching horizontally on all his routes. Will Fuller, if this were Will Fuller and not Devontae Parker, if he stretches on a go route, you could best believe that teams will not give you this too deep shell look close to the line of scrimmage, 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, and most certainly would give you this look and quickly flex out into single high or maybe even a straight double to take away the 9 route. When that happens, this safety is now clued in on whatever Gesicki and Parker may do on the boundary, which means you will have a Jalen Waddle with a slot corner 1-on-1 to either work the short zone on the out, work the drag, or if they stretch them wide enough, maybe just take them right up the field past the safety. And you have that kind of speed running at you, you can see how you could get flat-footed, and it can open up a lot of things. Now, why does this work in this manner? Well, it works because of this guy right here, Will Fuller. On tape, you can see him last year with the Houston Texans. Rare was the instance where they devoted single coverage or just single man-to-man or even man-up coverage, and they allowed him to just go one-on-one, because when they did, it usually ended up in touchdowns. All right, this is a similar formation. Actually, it's the same formation, but with a different tight end. And, well, this time it's Durham Smythe. But what they do on this play, and you guys remember this play against the Cardinals, they ran everybody wide. They had this motion with Jakeem Grant where he worked his way across and then just held out here on the flat. They had Gesicki out wide, and he took him up. But we're going to pretend for our purposes, that this will be Will Fuller. But you can understand what they were trying to get here at the 20-yard line. They wanted another 50-50 guy on the outside. And then all they did was they ran a delay with the tight end in line across the middle. Now, let's run it so you could remember how this play worked out. And I understand that this is 12 personnel because we have the 2 tight ends, but for our purposes, we're going to make believe that Mike Gesicki is a wide receiver. I know there's a joke in there somewhere. As you can see, Tua faked the throw to Waddle route outside on the flat, and then they had the delayed route across the middle to Durham Smith. And Durham Smythe gets his way all the way down to the 2-yard line. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. And Cardinals are in nickel. I suspect that the Dolphins might see some of that inside the 20 because obviously through the use of this personnel, they're going to try to open up the run game. But let's pretend that this is not Mike Gesicki and they're in regular 11 personnel. How could Mike Gesicki be working the middle of the defense in this quote-unquote new offense if he works in line? Well, by creating more space, by playing wider than almost everybody else. So how do you accomplish that? Well, you accomplish that by holding multiple players, including probably a linebacker, out on the flat, by maybe using Waddle here in the, like, this is Jakeem Grant, but he represents Jalen Waddle. You're going to have him run and maybe hold out into the flat, and he becomes an option to throw the ball to, okay? And then you're really just going to go and run goes on the outside. And all of these are viable options because you remember, you're going to have Will Fuller and you're going to have Devontae Parker running these goes, okay? And you have your safety valve in Waddle, which should hypothetically open up the safeties to try to take away the 9s, right? And probably pull a linebacker to the flat to contain Waddle, which leaves you what? The entire middle of the field for Mike Gesicki or whoever is working the inline tight end to work all the way up the field or into the short zone like he did right here in that what was essentially a prepared screen. But that will be the concept of everything that they try to get with the tight end in line, is to get wide, open up the field, split the safeties, and essentially threaten the boundary with Waddle. And what could be, you could even run some screens off of this set by releasing a tackle or maybe even running the tight end in motion. But the key to the game here is that tight ends will get down the field on this offense if they're working in line, with the offense working wide, with the offense getting wide and splitting those safeties. All right, now here's an interesting play, and you have what looks like 5 wide receiver set, but it's 11 personnel, and Mike Gesicki's in a Y flex position right here. Y flex just means that he is not in his normal alignment for a tight end, which is in line. He's flexed out a yard or two, and he's on the hash right here as the play is on the left hash. And you have Myles Gaskin here, who has now moved into the slot on the short side. To the play side, you have 2 wide receivers. And what they're trying to do here is, one of the reasons why they have him in this Y flex is because they're going to try to work Gesicki up the field, which will occupy a safety. But he could split him if this safety starts peeking at what's going on over here. Ideally, you are going to run somebody on a 9. They don't in this instance. They try to run Parker on a short little option. I don't understand what Myles Gaskin is doing, but I do understand what these 2 wide receivers are doing over here, and Lynn Bowden and Matt Collins. They're going to delay, and they're going to undercut that post route by Gesicki. Delay, and they're going to undercut it, and they're going to trail each other. What is this doing? Well, this is creating a very small window for Tua Tagovailoa to go through his progressions rather quickly, because the window is right down the hash. It's either open, no. Then you got to go to the backside, bang, bang. One of those have to be open. If they're not, you're throwing it away. This over here is almost superfluous. Okay? Now, how is it different with the personnel they're going to have now? Well, it's kind of easy, right? With the personnel you're going to have now, you're going to have probably Parker on the outside here, working the slant. And you're going to have Waddle, who's a threat to take it the distance on the delayed slant, while Gesicki works the deep middle. Now, this is the only other way I can see Mike Gesicki being a factor in this offense as far as working down the field and in between the hashes. Because otherwise, you're taking away space from the guys that want to operate right here in the middle of the field, namely Jalen Waddle. So let's run this play so we can watch it unfold. And remember what I said about the short window for the progressions, and we're going to stop it to show it to you. Here's the snap. And remember that there's a reason why Mike Gesicki is in that Y flex. He has to get down there in a hurry to open up that window for Tua Tagovailoa. We're going to see it right here. We're going to stop it right here. As you can see, the window's developing, and it's rather clear, right? He's going to go bang. He's going to go bang, bang, bang. Those are his progressions. He settles on his number 1 read, which is throwing it right down the hash to Mike Gesicki. And it works out. As you can see, splits the safeties. Gesicki takes a pretty good hit right here. But you saw the window. It was bang, bang, bang. All 3 wide receivers or pass catchers in his progression were all in the same eyesight, the same level. So he doesn't really have to even look around in that sense. He's going high, low for his progressions. He's delivering it. He's going high, he's going low, or he's throwing it away. That was very simplified, but it it has to be run correctly with the parties involved. If they are not timed well together, the progressions are off, the pass could be late, or even worse, it's early and it could get intercepted, especially against zone coverage. But Tua does a very, very good job of holding the safety by staring him down, but really what he's doing is just staring down the window where he's throwing the ball to. Now, how is it different this year? Well, you got better receivers running that slant, those delayed slants, and Tua can hold it a little bit more if he has to. On to the next play. All right, here's an interesting play from the Chiefs game, and I'm going to draw it up for you. This is Y-ISO. This is Mike Gesicki lined up down here, and you have what essentially is trips to the right side of the formation. This is 11 personnel. This is 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. This Y-ISO, where you have the tight end isolated on one side all alone. How do teams defend this? How have they traditionally defended this? This is the Kansas City Chiefs. They decided to defend them with Tyrone Matthew and Sorensen all day on this day, and that was nothing new because the Chiefs used that same defense against Darren Waller, and we know what he did to the Dolphins. So you got to assume that this is probably something that they will do in the future. They're not going to devote a corner to Mike Gesicki and White ISO. They're going to use a safety. So that's in consideration in this case. Now, you're saying, well, the Chiefs have this two-deep look, and they're kind of wide, so, maybe they'll play this different. They won't. You won't want to play single high against Y-ISO because in this trips formation, you could release any of them on a 9, and if the safety bites on anything that's underneath, you have one-on-one to the end zone with a lot of speed. Remember, this is the new Dolphins offense, so hypothetically, this would be Jalen Waddle. This would be Will Fuller. And Devontae Parker's probably running this spot right here. Okay? And although you can have Will Fuller running in this spot too. And if he runs a 9 up the field, it's going to hold the safety no matter what. If Will Fuller's out here and he's running the 9, it's going to hold the safety no matter what. Now, there's a switch release, right? So Jalen Waddle is free to also work his outs, work his in cuts, work his drags across the formation. Now, how does the safety figure in this? Well, first of all, they got to call the numbers here because you almost have like a little bunch formation. In my hypothetical, you will have Jalen Waddle off of the line in this position. So they're going to have to call the numbers. He's going to have to call it for, 1 inside, 2 outside. So he's going to have to, or the other way around, however they call their numbers. But you're going to have to call it right here. And the Chiefs seem to have it figured out at the line because this corner is going to try to jam Lynn Bowden, who in this case would be Devontae Parker. Now, you're creating kind of like a pick, but another thing that this Y-ISO formation does against nickel, against dime, against almost any type of defense, unless you're just rushing 2, and even if you're rushing 3, is that it will open up your defense. For what? For speed guys to work underneath it. And that's exactly what the Dolphins do on this play. Let's run it. And the progressions are pretty simple, as you can see right here. Tua's trying to hold the safety, and it's just so obvious. This is what they call college open in the NFL. They blew their call right here at the line, and 2 guys end up covering 1, and of course Jakeem Grant's wide open. Now, if this was Jalen Waddle, who knows? Maybe he could score. But Jakeem Grant's pretty fast. He tries to get there, but he doesn't. But what did this accomplish? Well, it made the defense wide. Second of all, even if they call the numbers correctly and he picks up Jakeem Grant, or in this case, Jalen Waddle, he'll be in trail. Trail against Waddle over the middle, against essentially nothing that can hit him. It's good offense. It's a great call. As you Hakeem had some space here, but he has no blockers in front because the play created the space for him. It's a big gain. That should be a staple of the Dolphins offense. Get wide, force wide splits by the safeties, and be threatening at all times with a 9 route. Another way you can do that, of course, is by using Y-ISO, just like you saw it right there with Mike Gesicki. And if you use Y-ISO, it will hold a safety on one side, especially when you have trips on the other. Now, how does all of this affect the run game? Well, Jalen Waddle will affect the run game in many ways. One of them, of course, is threatening safeties deep, so keeping them back, keeping 8 men out of the box. But here's a play against the Raiders that was rather successful, and it was successful really not by mostly its blocking, but by what it represented. And I understand this is 12 personnel because here is Mike Gesicki once again. But in our hypothetical, he's going to represent a wide receiver. I know there's a joke in there again somewhere. And if you're watching this play, he releases and he gets a block down here. I don't even know if he attempts a block, but he's releasing like a wide receiver. But what are they doing right here? Well, they're basically running outside zone, but what did they do here? They have a tight end in line. This man does have to get a seal, okay, for what they want to run because they're running outside zone, okay? But what do they do here? Imagine this is a wide receiver. This is Jalen Waddle, and this is Will Fuller, let's say, okay? If that happens, you will not have this disrespect that they're paying Mac Hollins up here, okay? You would have a safety absolutely right here on this hash and peeking at this matchup if this were the alignment, okay? So what do they do? Very simple. In this instance, they run Lynn Bowden. In my hypothetical, it'll be Jalen Waddle. Remember, you're on the short side. This is the play side. If you run Waddle in motion, and then you snap it, especially in the pistol formation, and you put the ball in Waddle's belly right at the hash before you pull it out and hand it to Gaskin running outside zone, what will that do? It's going to hold these guys, linebackers. And they might even take a couple of steps out to try to flow with the play, fearing the jet sweep. This can also be an option play. It could be up to Tua Tagovailoa, as what they're going to call right here, of course, are going to be down blocks, right? So, if you're running down blocks right here, then Tua Tagovailoa has an option right here to just give on the jet sweep or turn around and give what is outside zone. And if it's outside zone, it's very simple. You take a step and you find a man. You take a step. You're trying to stretch the blocking out here, trying to get the defense scattered and let your running back run the daylight. So, how did they execute this? Actually, rather well. Look at the play. See Lynn Bowden coming in motion? Look at what's happened already. Look what's happened already. These linebackers have already come off of their spot, and they're already flowing a little bit right here. They're peeking at this action right here. It's going to happen. Right? Right? This linebacker has all but, given up on the fact that he might give it on the outside zone. He's peeking at Lynn Bowden, and he's going to flow to Lynn Bowden. If that were Jalen Waddle, it would happen even worse. And on this play, Myles Gaskin does a great job at running to daylight. Busts up through there. That's a 9-yard gain. Good run. And I hope that with that, you got a better understanding of what the Dolphins are planning to accomplish with their 11 personnel sets this year, namely all the speed that they've added. Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller. Should be an interesting year. See you sometime this offseason with another yard work.